Hey everyone, I hope you're well. My name is Bryce, and this is the Positive Grid Spark 2 amp. So I've had it for a couple of weeks now, and I feel a little bit more comfortable with it. And I actually did an initial impressions video on it, so if you do want to watch that, then I'll leave a link to it in the description of this video. But as a quick disclaimer, I do have some allergies going on, so if I sound a little bit congested, that's why. But getting back to the review, one of the things that I said in my initial impressions video was that one thing that I disliked about it was how loud the click was when you're activating the looper on the amp, and I said that I didn't know if it was adjustable or not. Well, people were kind enough to let me know in the comments that yes, it is adjustable, and then they were talking about using the app to do that, and I have since done that. But you can also adjust it on the amp itself via the music knob, which I'll show you in a second here, but I should have just played around with the amp a little bit more before saying something like that, because I was honestly just looking for something that I could just say as a con, so that way I wasn't just oozing and goozing over it. But I will probably be oozing over it in this video, just as a heads up. So yeah, real quick, I'm going to show you the looper click again. So, and then you can adjust it with the volume knob like that. So I'm going to turn the amp off for the rest of this review. But yeah, now that I've had it for a couple of weeks, honestly, I can say that I'm happy with it so far. I had the Positive Grid Spark 40 for I think almost 3 years before getting this amp, and I was looking for something that, okay, I wasn't actually looking, but I'll say I wanted a desktop amp. So the way that I'm coming from this review is just so you have a little bit of background about me. I primarily play by myself at home, and I just do stuff for like me. So I practice, I jam, I make like little tracks here and there, some of which I'll share to social media, others of which I won't. But I was looking for a desktop amp because I primarily use amp plugins like from Neural DSP, ML Sound Lab, or STL Tones. I primarily use that, but I wanted a physical amp, and I got one in the form of the Spark 40, and I wanted it to be able to fit on my desk, and I wanted it to have a bunch of different like tonal options, if that makes sense. So that's why I ended up getting the Spark 40, and from time to time, I would actually take that amp as well with me to go jam with my buddy Joe. He plays bass, and I would take it over to his house, and it worked just fine in that setting as well. So just playing at home, whether I was just watching TV or just didn't want to turn on my computer to load my amp sims, that is what I was looking for. And also just because sometimes I want to do stuff away from a screen, and I know that this has the app that you can use on your phone, but I found with the Spark 40, once I set up all the presets that I wanted on my phone, I didn't really need to use it unless I had to connect it to like change a preset or something like that. I could just turn on the amp and play. So that is where I'm approaching this review from the lens of somebody that's just like a casual, like a hobbyist. I am not a professional musician by any means. I'm not saying that you can't like gig or use this for professional recordings. I'm just saying that's not what I do. Yeah, so I got the Spark 40, and the tone overall was pretty good, but I didn't like how bassy it was, how boomy it was, and I didn't end up using it as much as I would have, as much as I thought I was going to use it, to be honest. And part of it was down to the amount of bass that was present in the tone. So when they came out with this amp, they fixed that issue, which I really appreciated, but I wasn't 100%, I wasn't convinced by just that alone, because I needed something a little more. So what they did was they added a built-in looper, and that was enough for me to get this amp, because like I said in my initial impressions video, I really like loopers, and they're just fun to just kind of like jam out on and have a good time. So having the built-in looper was really what sold me on it, but the fact that it fixed that bassy tone as well was like the icing on the cake. Because I will say, if it still had like that amount of bass as it did in the Spark 40, but it had the built-in looper, I probably would not have gotten this, because I actually do have my own looper pedal, but just having it all in one is really nice. So going back to what I said about just wanting to get away from a screen sometime and just setting up my Spark 40 to how I wanted it to sound without needing my phone, I definitely think that yes, you can get away without using your phone on this amp, but I do recommend using it for the initial setup to find the tones that you're looking for. And also, if you're going to be like heavy duty on the looper, then I definitely recommend using your phone for that as well, because you can do like a simple looper and then you can add group, you can do, or sorry, you can do a simple looper, or you can do ones that have like drum tracks, and there's like more that you can do with that type of looper. And yeah, but I didn't really use the full functionality of the its predecessor, the Spark 40. Like I didn't use the jam tracks or anything like that, and I don't know if I'm going to use it on this amp, to be honest with you. But having the built-in looper, I've been playing around with it a little bit, and it's been fun. And I'm honestly happy with the setup. I like that you have 8 preset options as opposed to the 4, or yeah, I think it was 4 on the Spark 40, and it's pretty simple to use. I did have a little bit of issues figuring out the looper, admittedly, but that was 100% user error, and it was because my music knob was all the way off. So I was like, I'm not hearing anything. When I pulled up the app, I was like, I'm not hearing the click when I was doing it on my app. So if you're having that issue as well, just make sure the music knob is not set to 0. But yeah, overall, I'm happy with it. I like the way that it sounds for what I use it for, and I think it's a great amp, especially if you're looking for something that is smaller and that you want on your desktop. Because one thing that I didn't mention earlier is I used to have a Boss Katana, and that amp served me quite well. And this was before I went the full amp sim route, but I wanted something smaller than that because honestly, I just didn't want it to take up the floor space. So yeah, that's why I wanted a desktop amp, and that's what led me to the Spark 40 the few years ago. And I decided to get this one because yeah, it fixed the bass issue and it added a built-in looper. And now I'm just going to share some sound clips with you. So there's nothing fancy going on. It's just my guitar plugged into the amp, which is then being recorded on my phone. One thing that I did notice about the amp, and this isn't something that's like a pro or a con, it's just something that I observed, is that a lot of the presets I felt like had a lot of effects. So like heavy reverb or delay. And that could be viewed as a pro or a con depending on the type of person you are. I primarily, especially when it comes to gain tones, I primarily do not add effects to it. Like I don't add reverb, delay, course, any of that stuff. So having that on the presets was actually interesting, and it gave me a new perspective. So some of the tones that I actually recorded on the clips were I used the reverb on my gain tones, but I do like having effects like reverb and delay on some of my clean tones, but sometimes I also just like a dry clean tone as just for like funky stuff or just to keep it simple. So if you're someone that's like, I don't like a bunch of effects on mine, then definitely if you're playing around with the presets, you're going to want to either modify those or just create your own, and removing those effects just as a heads up. When it comes to things that I dislike about this amp, at this point in time, I don't actually have anything because this is what I was looking for. And I will say that there are a lot of options when it comes to like the amp models that you can pick or the effects that you can use. So if you're someone that's like maybe like struggle with options paralysis, it might be a bit overwhelming for you, or maybe not. Don't let me be the judge of that. Definitely try it out for yourself. But the other thing, which is to me just like a minor inconvenience and could 100% be user error, I don't know, but I'm just going to say it, is when I was initially setting up my phone with the amp and I was having issues with the looper, which again was 100% my fault, but I had to go into my settings on my phone, and then when I went back to the Spark app, it would disconnect for whatever reason. I don't know why, because it was connected, so sometimes I just had to reconnect it. It didn't take long to connect each time, but it was just something that I found a little bit annoying when I was trying to troubleshoot it. I was also trying to do it late at night, so that is 100% on me. I turned it off and came back to it the next day and figured it out. So maybe that's what you need to do sometimes. But yeah, in terms of dislikes, there's not really much that I dislike about this amp. So overall, yes, I'm very happy that I got this amp. It has been serving me well, and I've been enjoying playing it and just having fun. And I've been practicing a lot more consistently lately. And usually what I'll do is I'll just boot up one of my Neural DSP plugins, because I use the Archetype Pliny X, and that one has a metronome on it, but so does this. So I've been using that recently to practice, and it's been nice. And don't let me just ooze and goose over it and then let that convince you. I definitely recommend you try it out for yourself, because who knows, maybe you'll like it, maybe you won't. If you have a Spark 40 and you do not like how like bassy it is, then and you're like, ooh, should I consider this? I would say sure, why not? At least try it out so that way you know. But if you're happy with the Spark 40 or whatever gear that you have, don't necessarily feel like you have to go out and get this just because you might be missing out on something. If you're happy with what you have, then continue to rock on using that. And I guess that was kind of weird because I did like kind of like a sideways thumbs up, but yeah, just continue to rock on. I felt like I kind of pointed at the amp when I did that, but yeah, just rock on using what you've got. So this has been my review of the Positive Grid Spark 2 amp. But what did you think about it? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching this video, and until next time, stay cool like a cloud and have a great day.